Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Steph from the Hot Moving Podcast, and I gotta say, I'm loving this NFL season right now because we're going into Week 8, or Week 8 is about to wrap up, going into Week 9, and look, we don't have a clear dominant team or a team that we can look at is like, yo, this team will be in the Super Bowl, right? I mean, you can make an argument that majority of these top teams that are leading their division have a bad loss, right? So the competition has been wildly, in my opinion, at least inconsistent. But that's good though, right? I mean, it's like these teams, you have to take your opponent very seriously. I'm not saying anything new. It's the NFL. It's any given Sunday, right? I mean, from the AFC standpoint, you have the Dolphins that are 6-2, right? Um, but they had a bad loss to the to the Eagles, and they had a bad loss to the Buffalo Bills, who's also in the division, right? Baltimore Ravens, they had a really bad loss, questionable loss to the Colts. I forgot who else they lost to, but I'm not trying to go through everybody's schedule. But Jacksonville 6-2, Kansas City 6-2. I mean, look, I remember last week everybody was talking about, just the media outlets and pundits were like, Kansas City is the best team in the AFC because they had that one loss to Detroit Lions because they didn't have Chris Jones and Travis Kelce in the lineup. But for me, I always thought that people were just saying that just because they're the Chiefs and they've won and they have Kansas City and they're 6-1 despite how they've looked. Okay, even with Patrick Mahomes throwing interceptions and their young receiving core still trying to gain that experience. They're still trying to really find the number one. I believe they have a number one in Rice, but it's week to week with the receiving core, not really for sure. So a lot of questions on that team still, despite Patrick Mahomes being the great player he is, right? And then you go to the NFC, right? And listen, man, I don't like saying this. I'm not a Cowboy fan. But I got to say, though, man, Cowboys, they took a lot of heat, deservingly so, for losing to the 49ers in the way they did. But at the time, the 49ers were steamrolling, or at least just rolling and looking dominant, especially on their defense, and Brock Purdy not turning the ball over and playing consistent, right? And here the Cowboys are at 5-2 as well. So, and the Detroit Lions didn't play this week, I believe. Or no, they play tomorrow. So, hey, is them being the Raiders a lock, and if they win, they'll be 6-2. But are they the second best team in the NFC if they win that game, right? I mean, look, Seattle is leading the division out of all teams. I knew Seattle wasn't bad last year. They made the playoffs, and this year was last year a fluke. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't seem so, right? I mean, Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, they have that team rolling at 5-2, leading the division. I mean, look, the NFC South is up for grabs still. I mean, the competition has been crazy. I wonder how they're going to do the power rankings. I mean, this is going to be a power rankings nightmare. I mean, are people going to say that Dolphins are the best team in the AFC? They have some flaws, man. Baltimore Ravens, I know they took care of business out here in the desert against the Cardinals, but, they only won by a touchdown. I know the Ravens were in control of that game, but you think the Ravens and listen, I know the Cardinals are only like 1-6, 1-7, whatever, 1-7, but they've been competitive. They're not that is the most odd 1-7 team because they don't lay down. They fight and they compete pretty hard. But and my team, the Steelers, right? I mean, look, we lost to Jacksonville in a very winnable game, in my opinion, up until Kenny Pickett got hurt. Apparently he got his rib hurt. Look, I thought he hurt his arm, hurt his rib. And Trubisky I think it was in the third or early mid fourth quarter, had a chance to drive to cut the lead to 20-17, throws a stupid pass in triple coverage. This is what Trubisky does. I'm not surprised as a Steelers fan. I never liked our backup. I was rocking with Kenny Pickett because that's our starter. We got no other options at this point. And I felt like a lot of points in that game, we had a chance to cut the lead. And possibly the game was winnable. The weather was ugly. I mean, the elements for that game was very, very winnable for us. Steelers football, we got to win ugly this season. That's just going to be what it is. We're not going to dazzle you with crazy offenses and plays and run schemes and passing attacks. That's just not who we are. we don't have the personnel to do that, right? But the Jags won that game, right? And they're 6-2 as well. So look, this season is shaping out to be a very competitive season. Baltimore leading the division, I'm not surprised. Miami leading the division, I'm not. Maybe you would probably think that Buffalo would have been leading the division, right? Or at least have a same record as the Dolphins. Kansas City, not surprised, right? But the Philadelphia Eagles, I listen. I know they had that bad loss to the Jets. And it's funny because Jalen Hurts has been throwing interceptions. Jalen Hurts had one of his best games, actually, this year. If I saw the stats, he played really well. I believe he had a clean game. He didn't have any mistakes, and if that's the Eagles going forward, then the league is going to be the league. He's put the league on notice today. I know it's against Commanders, but it's a division game, rival game. You know what I'm saying? So. Those games are always competitive. Washington, they play Washington well. They were the ones to break their to get their first loss to give the Eagles their first loss last season. So Jalen Hurts played well. 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. It looks like the Eagles are starting to find their stride. Are the Eagles the best team in the NFL? Right? That's what it's looking like. I think a lot of power rankings are going to have the Eagles. They're 7-1. I know they talked about how they've been playing. It's been inconsistent. They've been consistently inconsistent in winning games, right? And despite Jalen Hurts' turnover, Jalen Hurts is just the leader of that team. The way he plays, the way he commands, he doesn't let mistakes frazzle him. He just continues to move his team forward and keeps his teams in the ball games and try to compete and battle, right? And right now, in terms of just a complete football team that has to win in different ways, I got to say the Eagles are the number 1 team in the NFL, just from what I'm seeing. But again, it's not by some crazy margin, right? The 49ers nosediving. I know they've had injuries. Brock Purdy, it was questionable he was going to play. He played. And they've lost 3 games in a row. So 49ers once looked like it's going to be they're going to be running away with the league, and that's not the case. So they're going through their season slump. Of course, I expect a team like that to get it corrected and make the playoffs, but to not be leading the division at this point in Seattle. That's crazy, man. Could Seattle be the second, third best team in the NFL currently, right? So a lot of football obviously left to play, but I'm liking the parity we're having. I'm liking the fact that there is no clear dominant number 1 team, and it's been a good season so far. So let me know what you guys think. Who's your number 1 team right now in the NFL? If you're going to think about it objectively, I'd like to know. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching this pretty long vid. Didn't mean to make it this long, but thought it was very interesting to talk about. So thanks for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe. I'm out.